Good evening. Here we are on a Wednesday, looking forward to Week 5 game starting tomorrow between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chicago Bears. However, today we're going to be talking about those top performers from around the league in Week 4, and I'll finish it up tomorrow, as well as giving you guys a quick brief, kind of what to expect from that Thursday night game tomorrow. So, are you ready to get your fix? Well, let's start with the Seattle Seahawks, in which I thought they had two top performers, one being Russell Wilson, in which, once again, he showed why he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and might be the second best right behind Patrick Mahomes. This was a tough game for the Seahawks to win, but they were able to hold on and get the victory over the Dolphins. The Dolphins had a chance, but the Seahawks defense spoiled that. So Russell Wilson, he went 24 for 34 passing with 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So not a crazy game. But still, pretty solid outing for Wilson. He only has 2 interceptions in 4 games. That puts him on pace for about 8 total this year. So another guy I felt was a top performer was KJ Wright. He played some really, really nice defense the entire game and stopped some pretty key plays that kept Seattle out in front more than likely. So Wright also, he had 6 solo tackles, 2 assist tackles, and he also had 3 pass deflections and a forced fumble. So he just overall great defensive outing for KJ Wright, in which he needs to bring that same type of energy in the rest of the games this season. For the Dolphins, Devontae Parker was my top performer. He was really the only receiver that was able to find open field for Fitzpatrick to throw the ball to. Parker had a rough first 3 weeks, but this week he really kind of stepped up, and I think we can expect him to continue to play like this. Like he did against the Seahawks in the future. At least that's what I'm hoping. He's their number 1 receiver. He has to prove that and continue to be that top guy. Parker ended the game with 10 receptions on 12 targets with 110 receiving yards. So moving over to my top performer for the Vikings, which is Justin Jefferson. Once again, this man continues to impress not only me, but I'm sure many other people around the world. In my eyes, he's probably the best rookie wide receiver at this point in the season. And I know CeeDee Lamb has done a good job for the Cowboys, but I still think Justin Jefferson at this point is the best. He's had back-to-back games now of 100-plus receiving yards and has shown that his hands are just like glue. He does not drop the ball at all. When it's thrown his way, he's going to come down with it, and that's something the Vikings need to have, especially with the type of season they're having at this point. I mean, he just catches everything, like I said, that comes his way. He ended the game with 4 catches on 5 targets, which the one incompletion really wasn't catchable. It was kind of a dud throw by Kirk Cousins, but on 4 catches, he had 103 receiving yards. So again, this rookie's putting on a show, and he continues to be that top wide receiver in this wide receiver class. So for the Texans, my top performer is Deshaun Watson. The Texans have a lot to come back from. Okay, they just fired their head coach and general manager after losing to the Vikings, Bill O'Brien. So that was long overdue, but I think it's time to start panicking for this team because Deshaun Watson is literally the only thing they have, and that's just sad. You can't have just one player. You have to have a couple different players that actually do something. The Texans, like I said, just fired head coach and general manager Bill O'Brien, which is a great decision. He wasn't that good. They owe about $245 or $255 million, which is the most in the NFL, and they have no first-round draft picks this upcoming season. So they're literally screwed. So anyways, Watson, he played pretty solid in this game, going 20 for 33 with 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, Deshaun Watson's going to continue to perform. His team, not so much. Going over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, in which my top performer is DJ Chark, who did a really solid job getting away from the Bengals defensive backs and making some plays. Chark had 8 receptions on 9 targets with 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Chark basically is that entire offense for the Jaguars this game. He's one of their, I think he's their top receiver. Him and D.D. Westbrook kind of split. But right now, Chark, those 2 touchdowns and 95 yards, was a big key factor for the Jaguars team in that game. So for the Bengals, my top performer is Joe Mixon. He really just ran up and down the Jaguars like it was nothing. He literally was unstoppable. On 25 carries, Joe Mixon 151 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He was also targeted 6 times, catching all 6 passes for 30 yards, and he also got a touchdown as well. So a 3-touchdown day, about 181 yards total from scrimmage. So this was the Joe Mixon show, okay? And this was this was the Joe that I have been waiting to see. So hopefully he continues to do what he did against the Jaguars. I know it was the Jags, so we'll see what happens when he faces a little more tougher teams. But still, great outing. Moving over to the Cleveland Browns, in which my top performer is Odell Beckham Jr., who played his best game by far in the past 2 seasons. By far. Odell was the main reason the Browns were able to beat the Cowboys with having 2 rushes for 73 yards and a touchdown, as well as having 5 receptions on 8 targets with 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those touchdowns he caught from his longtime friend, high school. They would play high school together, college together, now the NFL, Jarvis Landry. So that was kind of nice to see of that chemistry kind of taking place there. Now, this Odell is scary, and we need to see more of this, because if he continues to play like this, the Browns are going to be very hard to beat, especially with how their defense is able to play as of late. It's night and day from last year. It really is, at least from what I've seen. So for the Cowboys, my top performer is Dak Prescott, who really is he's a passing machine. He currently leads the NFL in passing yards with 1,690. But against the Browns, he put on another clinic. Okay, he had 502 passing yards on 41 completions, 4 touchdowns, and interception. Okay, Dak's a pretty solid quarterback, but yards don't win you games, so something needs to change. Dak even said, "I would take back all of those yards for a win or for some wins." So his mindset's right. But again, he can't do it all himself, and that defense is struggling right now. That Cowboys defense is looking awful. They need to figure it out. Mike McCarthy needs to figure something out on that defensive side of the things. So something needs to change, because they're not looking that good at all. So going over to the New Orleans Saints, who barely got by with the win over the Lions, 35-29. My top performer for the Saints is Tre'Quan Smith, who didn't do a whole lot during the game, but he did have 4 receptions on 4 targets, 54 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, without those 2 touchdowns, the Saints more than likely lose this game. Smith stepped up nicely for an injured Michael Thomas, and that's what they needed. Like I noted last week, Alvin Kamara cannot be the only guy doing everything. You have to find a receiver. You have to do it now. And Tre'Quan Smith did just that. 2 touchdown day on only 54 yards. What more can you ask for? So for the Lions, my top performer is Matthew Stafford, who hasn't lost a step and is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe put him in the top 5, or not top 5, top 10, top 15, somewhere around there. But Matt had a really nice game, okay? We went 17 for 31 with 206 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. So the completions could have been better, but, he still did a good job getting the ball into the end zone. He did play a Saints defense that is really good. They just need to, kind of tweak some things a little bit. So he did a really good job getting the ball to the end zone and almost came away with the win over these Saints. Finally, let's get to the Los Angeles Chargers, in which my top performer is Justin Herbert. Look, this rookie, like Joe Burrow, can flat out ball. Okay, he looks really solid, and I had no doubt in my mind that he'd be just fine coming into the NFL. And all he needed was one chance, in which he succeeded at, and he got another shot this week, nearly beating the Buccaneers. Herbert went 20 for 25 passing, which is awesome. Had 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. For a rookie, that's really solid. I like what Herbert brings to the table. He's a big guy with a great arm, okay, and he can scramble if need be. His awareness is very good. I think this guy is going to be something special for years to come. So for the Buccaneers, my top performer is Tom Brady, who is looking as of late like himself, but can still do without those interceptions. One route, like Colin Cowherd said today, that he cannot throw is that deep out route. It's always a pick 6 usually. He's had, I think, 3 pick 6s now this year. So it's just those have got to stop. Now, Brady was named the NFC Offensive Player of the Week, as well as the FedEx Air and Ground Player of the Week. So, this performance obviously was something special. Brady went 30-46, 369 yards, and 5 touchdowns and an interception. 5 touchdowns to me says Brady isn't slowing down at all and will continue to torch defenses around the league, even though he might get sloppy and end up throwing an interception. But that is kind of the Bruce Arians type offense that they run. It's going to happen. We got to deal with it. It's not going to be as many as Jameis Winston had last year. So, Tom's doing just fine. The Bucs are doing just fine. They're number 1 in their division. So, continue to watch the Bucs thrive and see if they can actually beat the Saints this time with Michael Thomas coming back here in the next few weeks. So that's going to end our discussion today, and we're going to finish up, like I said, the rest of the top performers from around the league tomorrow, and then I'll give you my thoughts on what to expect from that Bucks and Bears game. But anyways, thanks for stopping by. Have a wonderful night, and you just got your fix with the Wicks.